Good evening, everybody. It is 9:45 p.m. on Thursday, June 16, 2022. Hope you're having a great week. And sorry it's been a little bit since I made a video, but we're going to get right into it tonight. And I'm going to be just using one example here to kind of show you a little bit of the anatomy of a volume profile trade, at least the way I've been backtesting it, okay? So listen, if you go on YouTube or just Google, or especially YouTube, and you go on there and Google or look up search volume profile, you're going to find all kinds of videos about volume profile and how people use it in their trading. So I've just started backtesting this a couple of weeks ago, so this is just how I've been backtesting it. I'm not saying that this is how I'll end up falling on this, but so far it's kind of what I like. I've tried basically the four different types of volume profiles, which I'll touch on very briefly. But the one you see on the left here is primarily the one I've standardized on. Okay, and I'll explain what the one on the right is too, which I only use for certain things. Okay, but my primary one that's on the chart all the time is this one over here. And I'm going to explain this trade to you on this euro-dollar trade that I took today. And basically, what I was seeing. Okay? So, just really brief, I'm not going to go back and rehash what volume profile is, but essentially, when you see volume on a chart, normally you see it down at the bottom here. I guess I could just put it on the chart for a second. Okay, so this is normally the volume you see on the bottom of a chart. Okay, this is volume at certain time. Okay, so these vertical bars represent volume at a certain time. So this bar right here represents, volume at 21:30, on 6:15, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is time-based volume. Volume profiles that paint on the side of the screen, these are price-based. So these are volumes at certain prices versus volume at time. Okay, now I'm going to be honest with you, and I may get people disagree with me. I never found any use for this volume. Never used it. Never found any value in this. Okay, but I just wanted to explain briefly what the difference is between volume profiles and traditional volume. Okay, this one's based on price. The one down here is based on time. Okay, all right. So now essentially there are four different types of volume profiles. I have two of them on the screen, and I'll just touch on them really fast. This is kind of like a traditional volume profile. It has a fixed look back period. So, it looks at a certain number of bars or candles back to draw this profile and draw the point and control line, which is this green horizontal line, and in this case draw out the two the high and low value, mark out the high and low value areas too. Okay, and so, like I said, this uses a fixed period. So if I bring up, again, my indicator list, and I'm just going to drag this sucker over here, you can see I'm using a 500 bar look back period. So this volume profile, and I know you can't see it all because the way I have my screen cut off, there's more of the blue off to the left here as it goes up. I should have adjusted my screen before I started it, but I didn't. But anyways, it has a 500 period look back. Okay, and this doesn't really have many settings. And I find, with looking for entries on a 15-minute chart, I found 500 was a good number. Okay, not too long, it's not too short. If you make it any shorter, you lose a lot of the history on the left side of the screen because it's not looking back at as many bars, so you lose kind of the volume range. And if you make it too long, then it's very slow to react to price changes, okay, as price moves. It has to really move impulsively for it to update. But if you make it too long and it's using a very large look-back period, it's going to be very slow to react, okay? And this 70% is the standard, which just means that it's drawing out the value area right here. So this basically this whole green area. It's saying that 70% of the volume within this 500 bar look back period is happening in between these two blue lines in this green area. Okay, and that's the default on most of these indicators, and I find no reason to change it. Okay, so that's the settings. So unless I go in there and change it, this is going to be 500 look back no matter what chart I put it on, what time frame I look at. Okay. This one over here is what you call a fixed range, and basically how they work depends on the indicator and what platform you're using. This is a custom indicator that I bought. Basically how this works is, see these two vertical lines, this red and this white line. If I move these, depending where I place them, it will change the indicator, and it'll show you the volume in between those two lines, however you set them. So if you watch me, I'll move this white one over to the left here and watch how the profile changes. I'm going to move it over here, and you can see how the profile changes. So now it's looking at all the price action in between these two lines. Okay, all right, so this is called a fixed range because you're looking at the volume only just for a fixed area. Okay, and I'll show you how I use this. Okay, so let me just put it back to where I had it. Okay, so that's about where I had it before. Okay, and the other two that I don't have on here that I don't use is, one is a session profile indicator, and it draws out a session, a profile right on the chart for every 24-hour trading period. So at the beginning of a new trading day, whatever time that is on your platform, it will start to draw out a new profile which will develop through that whole day. It'll be like right on the chart, basically covering the whole range of price for the day. Once that day ends, a new one will start, and so on and so forth. It's called a session indicator. I really didn't find any value for that. I know some people love them. I watched a lot of videos of people that love the session one. I personally didn't find a lot of value in it, so I don't use that. And the last one is called a visible range, which is kind of like this one. What it does is, it literally, what it says, it draws the profile based on the visible candles or bars on your chart. So if you zoom out, the profile will change. If you zoom in, the price will change. And it's just looking at whatever you can see on your chart, that's the profile it's drawing. So in a way, it's kind of a cross between this one and this one, right? And again, I think to me that was too confusing, and I didn't really have any interest in it. So these are the two I used, the kind of the standard one and the fixed range. Those are the two that I use. Okay, but again, if you go and YouTube search it, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's just countless videos on how people use these things. Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about this trade. Now, it is very common when price comes into so this line right here, this is called the point of control. See, it says POC or VPOC, some people call it value point of control. And it basically represents the highest volume on this particular profile, depending how you have it set. So this node, and these are called nodes, these areas that stick out, like right here and right here and right here and right, all these areas where price kind of sticks out. And then you have these void areas in between. But all these areas in between are called nodes. Okay, high value nodes or low value nodes. Okay, if they're happening below the point of control, they're considered low value nodes. If they're happening above, they're high value nodes. Okay, so the point of control sits at the highest value node, which in this case is right here. And you can kind of see that, how far this green sticks out here. And it draws this line right across the chart. Now remember, this is dynamic, so as price moves, now when it's just ranging like this, it's not going to move. But as price continues to move up or down, all these nodes will begin to shift. And the point of control can shift too. And now if all of a sudden more volume develops, like say here, and this thing sticks way out, then all this green area will shift to the north here, and all these lines will adjust, and the point of control will move. So this is not a static indicator, okay? It will change. This one, on the other hand, will not change unless I move these lines, because obviously I'm looking at a fixed area. Unless I move this red line over to the current price, and then obviously it will adjust as price moves. But assuming that you're putting it on price that's already happened, this one will not change. Okay, this one will as price moves on the chart. But again, it takes quite a bit for it to move. It's not going to move right away. Okay, so that's what the point of control is, and it's a central area. You can see here what happened in the past. Well, you can't see it, but off the chart, there was a downtrend that was going, and you can start to see the downtrend, but off to the left where you can't see, it was a big downtrend coming down, and then it runs into where the POC is. And this is very common, where you're going to see price really chop around inside this point of control. It comes through it, comes back up through it, comes back down through it, up through it, down through it, up to it, down through it, and then finally it went. Okay, we finally had an impulsive move. And the reason why it's moving sideways in between is because price is in balance. The volume is in balance. There's basically an equal push and pull between buyers and sellers here. There's a lot of volume, but this means that price is in balance inside this area. And so it just doesn't go anywhere. We had a couple of false breakouts. We had one false breakout to the upside, and it snapped right down again. We had a false breakout to the downside here, and it snapped right back. And we had a couple of more small breakouts down here. And you can see how these breakouts coincide with these value areas, these two blue lines, separating the green area from the blue area. Okay. Now, it did punch through a couple of times, but these blue lines give you a nice kind of barrier. Okay. But basically what you have is a range running like this. Let me just put a rectangle on here. You have this range, right? So if you wanted to be really conservative, you wouldn't enter anything until either you break above this high or above this low. Okay. Now I got in sooner, which I'll talk about in a second, but the nice thing is well, I'll tell you why. Okay, but basically the blue lines again represent kind of that holding pattern with price undulating up and down, up and through and back down through the point of control. And again, that's why it does it, because the point of control represents such a high area of volume that this is what you're going to see a lot of times. The Euro Kiwi is another example. I'm not going to spend any time on it, but if you go to the Euro Kiwi 15-minute chart, look at the point of control here and look what price is doing. It's just been sitting here doing nothing for about 2 days, just chopping around because the market is in balance. This pair is in balance, and there's nothing to impulsively. So when price moves, it's because it's out of balance. When it starts to impulsively move up or down out of this range, it's because it's now out of balance. Okay, and it has to go towards another area of value, and that's what forces it to move. Okay, it's this constant trading of value in the market. All right, so the Euro Kiwi is another one right now that is kind of sitting there doing nothing. The Euro Dollar, on the other hand, broke out of that area. So I took this trade today. I'm already out of it, but I am going to look to re-enter because I do like to just day trade, so I tend to just close things at the end of the day. And I did okay on this one, so I was happy to close it. And this is what I expected during the Asian session for this thing to pull back. So 104.66 is where I got in. I put this price label on here. Now, the reason why I got in is because I saw this impulsive move up, and I know we're still well inside this range, but it looked very impulsive. And then I saw it come back right here and tag the POC and started going again, and I jumped in because I saw this, come down, tapped into this POC again, didn't continue down, bounced right off it, and the next one we had a bullish engulfing candle right here. So I jumped in 104.66. I put my stop just below here, so it was a pretty small stop loss. Again, this is only a 15-minute chart, and I let it go. And this is where I got out at the end of the day, 105.62, and this is where we're at now. You can see it did go a little bit further after I got out. That's fine with me, and here's where we are right now. Okay, so that was the reason why, because this POC line represents, like I said, a lot of balance. When price tends to finally move away from the POC up or down, when it's finally ready to break out, it's going to do so very impulsively. And I just felt like this was a very impulsive move. Because you can see here, it moved down. Okay, it moved down, and, but it came down, and it kind of just chopped around a little bit. It wasn't this like boom, boom, it just kind of came down, and then it just kind of drifted, and then it snapped right back in again. Okay, I didn't take this trade, but theoretically, if I was watching this, maybe I would have taken a short right here. It wouldn't have worked out, so I'm glad I didn't. And that's the thing; these don't always work out. but many times they will if you just practice a little bit of patience and let the market develop and go when it's ready. Okay, and then when it does, you jump on board. You can put a really good, tight stop loss on these things and just let it go. Okay, so here's where I got out. And 1 second, guys. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So this is where I get out. Okay, so now, here we are in the Asian session, and I'm not in this trade right now. Okay, and by the way, this is a demo account. You can see this is a MetaTrader 5 demo account because these indicators were designed for MT5. My live account is an MT4, so I do my analysis here, and then I take the trades on my MT4, which is why I can't show you the trade, because I usually do try to take the trade on my MT5 account just so I can do a post analysis, but I didn't in this case. However, I just found a expert advisor, a robot, that basically will copy my trades off my live account onto this account. So if I take a trade on my live account, it will automatically duplicate it on this account, which is great. So now if I won't, I won't forget because it'll do it automatically. But that's something else. So if I'm going to re-enter this trade, where am I going to re-enter? Okay, so now this is where the profile range indicator comes in. So what I did is I put the white vertical line at the beginning of this uptrend, and I put the red one at the end of the uptrend up here. So now it's looking at the volume between here and here only, and it draws out this histogram. And I'm saying, okay, well, where is a good area for this thing to come back down to? Okay, and so we can see that, well, first we had this node right here. Well, certainly I knew it wasn't going to stop at this node because that wouldn't have been a big enough pullback. Okay, this is only a 15-minute chart. And I think a lot of the liquidity for this node got used up on this little pullback right here. So I did fully expect it to pass right through here just because it was too close to this high. And when you see these, after these big nodes, you see these kind of cutout areas, I call them. It's like a void where there's very low volume. Price will tend to just sail right through those things. And you can see it has worked right through them, and it ran into support at this node right here. Okay, and now it's kind of just chopping around. But my guess is that it probably will, between now and the beginning of the London session, it will continue down a little bit more, and then we see we've got another notch right here. And I'm thinking it will come down and tag somewhere inside this rectangle. Now, it might just hit the top of it, might come all the way through. There is another notch here, okay, and I think it might come down a little bit further. Okay, but my guess is we'll see a little bit further down and tap into this somewhere inside this rectangle. Again, whether it's at the top or the bottom or somewhere in the middle, I'm not sure. I mean, theoretically, it could come down even further. It could come back down. This white dotted line represents basically a 50-50 split. It's not really a point of control. It cuts this histogram right in half, and that's this area here. So essentially, you could say it represents like a 50% Fibonacci retracement right here. All right, so I mean, it could come all the way down into this area down here, but I'm guessing somewhere in here is where it'll stop. But we'll see. So that's how I use this, and I took a screenshot of this because I want to see exactly how this ends up working out, because chances are it's going to happen while I'm asleep. I did set a couple alarms on my phone. If it hits into some of these areas, I might go in and look at it and see if it's making an impulsive move back up or if it's just continuing down. So I'm curious to see where this ends up. But right now, this is my kind of conservative estimate for where this is going to go. But I wouldn't be surprised if it continues down even further, maybe even down to this node before it turns back up. But I don't think it'll go that far, but we'll see. I'm not in a trade right now, so I have no skin in the game. I'm really just watching this. And we had a very similar situation on the pound US dollar. It looks almost exactly the same. I'm not going to show it because I don't have it all marked off, but it was a similar trade. It looks just like this. And it's also at the same point right now on the chart where it's just kind of pulling back into these volume nodes here. Okay, so the bottom line is, guys, what I'm doing is I'm going to I'm looking through my 15-minute charts, and I'm looking for price coming into or working around a point of control on the 15-minute chart, and I'm just basically taking note of it, and I'm looking for where when price might break out and move. Okay, now on this particular chart, if we go to the 1 hour and we look at this on the hourly chart, you can see the point of control on the hourly chart is way up here. So if I was going to get back in long, ultimately this will be my target for price to come all the way back to this POC on the hourly chart. Again, the POC tends to be a magnet for price. So this is going to pull price up, and eventually I think it'll probably work its way back up. So if I'm looking at, well, where do I think price is going to go if it's inside the value range along the POC on the 15-minute, then I'm going to go to a higher time frame and see where's the POC on that time frame. And if it does, that'll be at least my bias about a breakout and what my target might be if I'm going to stay in the trade longer term. So again, for this, ultimately I think the target will be up here at this 107.15 area or so at the POC. Okay, so that's what I do. I'll go to the 1 hour, and again, this histogram, you can see it changes because now it's looking at a 500 period look back, but on an hourly chart instead of a 15-minute chart. Okay, this histogram hasn't changed. It's scrunched down, but it has the same levels because again, this is a fixed range histogram. So this histogram over here did not change from what I showed you on the short time frame. It just scrunched it down a little bit because it's an hourly chart. But because you're setting the range, it's going to keep this the same, whereas this one will change based on the time frame. Okay? So, and you go back to that Euro Kiwi, this one's really interesting. So you see on the 15 where, again, we're chopping around here, the POC. But watch when I go to the 1 hour. We're also very close to the POC on the 1 hour, and even up here at the 4 hour, we're sitting basically just on the other side of it. So even on these higher time frames, we're just kind of moving inside this range here for the most part. So, I don't know, let's look at the daily chart. Again, pretty close to the POC. This pair is really imbalanced right now, so that's why, honestly, I don't really have any plans to enter this pair, because even on the 1 hour, 4 hour, when you saw on the daily chart, we're very close to the POC. So even if price broke out, I wouldn't even feel comfortable about where it's going, because the POC is not anywhere far away on these higher time frames to say, okay, well, if the POC was way up here on, say, the hourly chart, then I'd be more confident this is going to break to the upside and go back up here. I'd probably be looking more biased towards long positions, but we don't have that. So that's why I'm really not interested, but I just wanted to show you that the power of the POC line is for holding price in place in a market that's just in balance, and there's nothing out of balance to cause price to impulsively move. Now that could change any time, but that's how this one sits right now. But I didn't want to get too much into that. So back to euro dollar. So again, that's what I'm looking for, guys. I'm looking for a pullback somewhere into this area. So I have this yellow arrow, and again, could it go further down? Absolutely. I'm still back testing this stuff. It could go down to this area, and then turn from here. And, that's still, on this pair, that's still quite a few pips. I mean, if it comes all the way down to here, that's another 30 pips. So that's a pretty big stop loss. If you got in here and it, let's say you decide to jump in long here and then it just keeps going, you'd have to have a pretty big stop loss, 40, 50 pip stop loss in place. So you'd have to sit through some drawdown. So let's just see what happens. I'm not going to take a trade. I'm just going to watch this. If I happen to be in front of the charts when it starts to move again, I might jump in. But right now I'm just watching. I took a couple of screenshots of this, and of course I'll watch it live, which is why I have everything labeled. So in case this histogram changes at all, I'll be able to know where it started from. These are that 50 period moving average channel that I made previous videos on. That's what this is. I could take these right off the chart and not even look at these right now because I'm not really using them so much while I backtest these profiles. But that's what this is, that 50 EMA channel that I previously talked about. Okay, so anyways, guys, we'll keep an eye on this, and maybe I'll make a follow-up video tomorrow afternoon after New York settles down for the day, since tomorrow's Friday, and see where we ended up with this pair, and see, you know, how accurate we were on the analysis. But again, guys, basically what I'm doing is looking for choppy price action. I'm looking for price approaching the POC or at the POC, chopping around, and I'm looking for, then I'm going out to a higher time frame, see where the POC is relative to that on the higher time frame, and that will kind of give me my bias about where I think price ultimately will end up, and you know, where we might go. I guess just really brief, another one, let's look at Euro Yen. So Euro Yen on the 15, we're sitting right at the POC as we speak. Again, a very big magnet. And on the 1 hour, we're just above it. Okay, so this is another one that's, you know, I'm not really too sure where it's, because there's just not a big gap between where the POC is on the 1 hour versus the 15. I'll go out to a higher time frame and just look at this, and the POC on the 4 hour is down below. Okay, so we might see quite a bit of range trading on this pair for sure, but if I had to make a biased guess on this right now, I would say it's going down. And if I did decide to take a short, which I'm not right now, but if I did, this would be my target way back here at 136.64 or so, which is you know, about 386 pips from where it sits right now, and that would be my bias on this pair. But I'm not necessarily going to do that. But you can see price is a magnet. We had this big move down, and look, we came all the way right back, and exactly came right back to the point of control line, because again, this is a very high volume area, and price is generally attracted to here. You know, because there's a lot of liquidity sitting in these areas, and that you can use that to your advantage. And so, like I said, you know, if I was looking for a trade on here, it probably would be to the downside, just based on where the POC is on the 15-minute, and then out at the 1 or maybe the 4 hour chart. In this case, to get a bigger view of if it does move, where price might go. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on this one too, guys, and maybe update you on that. Okay. So I will leave it there. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you need, now look, I think I mentioned in the last video I made on volume profile, since these are MetaTrader accounts, MetaTrader does not include volume profile indicators, so you're going to have to go out and you know, probably purchase them. I didn't see any free ones that were any good. I bought these off the MetaTrader Market, which is the MQL5.com website. And you know, you can find them there. You just search volume profile. But if you're looking for any information about where I got them or which ones I purchased, just let me know. I have no relationship with these the developers that made them, so I'm not even really getting into that. But if you're curious about which ones I ended up buying, just let me know. I'm happy to leave it in the comments if you want. You can check it out. Okay. But like I said, I have nothing to do with them. I don't make any money on them. I'm not an affiliate or anything like that. I went out and used my own money and bought these things. But I do find that they're helpful. Okay, so again, guys, any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comment section. Please hit the subscribe button, lower right corner, ring the bell notification so you get notified when I post a new video, and please hit that like button to help out with the YouTube algorithm. And I look forward to giving you an update on these either tomorrow or over the weekend. But I'll try to do it tomorrow, because once the market closes, these volume profiles freeze up, and they actually will go, if I try to change time frames, they won't be here because they're only active because they're pulling data from the broker. So once the market closes, they kind of freeze up and go away. So if I'm going to make an update on this, I have to do it before the market closes. So I will try to do that tomorrow. If not, might have to wait until Monday, but I'd like to do it tomorrow before anything really changes too much. So anyways, guys, have a great night, and I will talk to everybody soon. Thanks.